think we may be a minute early, but everybody's here on time. Yay, y'all did good getting here, traffic and everything. So I'm Dr. Tammy. Nice to meet y'all. Those who don't know me yet. I'm duct taped together. So anybody a Star Wars fan? What has a dark side and a light side and controls the universe? Duct tape. I went to the bathroom a minute ago and I'm like, that's not gonna, like, my microphone's not gonna pick up anything, is it? So if I'm standing here and I like completely like give this like blank look, that's me usually. No, actually that's probably because my microphone just fell off. So that's Paul in the back, he's our recorder man. So for those of you who fall asleep tonight, the recording will be available later. Tanya was just telling me, she's like, you get so passionate, you just keep talking and talking and talking, and so I apologize if I do that, but oh my gosh, I love this stuff. I went to a dinner talk last night, and some folks here tonight went to Jim Hallisey's dinner talk, which was wonderful. I thought it was really cute. He's like, I'm not high tech at all. He had just a bunch of like graphs and stuff, but I like PowerPoint. I think it's kind of fun. So we're going to have some fun tonight. Cool? Yeah? All right, cool. Anybody offended if I tell a blonde joke? I'm looking at the blonde in the room. Would you? Oh, yeah, you are blonde. Okay, I'll tell a different joke. A bald joke. I won't tell you bald jokes. So this blind guy walks in a bar and he sits down and he tells the bartender, he's like, hey, I got the best blonde joke for you. And the bartender goes, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. He goes like, before you tell that joke, I just want to let you know that to the right of you is this like 6'2" blonde guy. Looks like a bodybuilder, could be, and his wife is blonde as well. There's 3 blonde guys over there playing pool, and there's 2 other blonde people at the bar that look a little bit intimidating. So I just thought I'd give you the heads up. And he's like, do you really want to tell that blonde joke? And the guy says, no, you know, thanks for telling me. I don't really want to explain it that many times. So you know what you call a black and blue, something black and blue in the ditch? Someone who told too many blonde jokes. So I'll stop now with saying that. I'm going to do something a little different tonight, and I stole this from Jim last night. I'm impressed. I'm a thief of all things. So we're going to get a little interactive because I think this will be a little bit more fun for you. And if you guys haven't already started this, this is going to be your very first assignment towards changing your life forever for the better, hopefully. And I want you to just take a minute and fill in why I'm excited that I came tonight. Give you just a minute. Excited, right? Excited. And then the next question is what I hope to learn tonight. And whatever you put in that line, if by the time I'm done here, 4 hours later, you have not answered that line or that question, I want you to make sure you raise your hand and get that answered. And then I want you to think, what health issues am I struggling with that are really starting to affect the joy in my life? Because that's what it's really all about. When we start to have issues with our health, or maybe our hormones aren't balanced, or we don't feel good, it starts to affect so many areas, and it starts to really affect the joy in our life. And so I really want you to focus on what we can do to help you get the joy back, and I'm hoping that I can answer a lot of those questions for you tonight. Does anybody want to share their number 1 with me? Volunteers. Hello. Yes. Why you're excited? Okay, cool. Awesome. Perfect. And does anybody want to share what they hope to learn tonight? New. Well, I'm all about new. All about different. Excited about that. Healthy living. Awesome. And so I was just asking my guests here tonight who are regular members in the program. HIPAA is if you don't know or you've never been in healthcare, it is a federal law that says whatever you tell me within the confines of those four walls of my office, I am federally legally bound to not repeat, which as the little girl who could not keep her brother's Christmas presents a secret has been one of the hardest things that I've ever taken on in my whole life. But I asked them if I could HIPAA violate them tonight, and it sounded a little bit crude, and they said absolutely. So I don't want to HIPAA violate anybody, but does anybody want to share maybe an issue that they've been struggling with that is starting to affect the joy in their life, so that I make sure that I address that tonight? Low back pain. Okay, cool. And low back pain is chronic inflammation. And sometimes that's from trauma, or it's from different things that can happen throughout your life. So absolutely, if I don't get that answered, you holler back at me, okay? All right, cool. So I want to talk about objectives, what we're going to talk about tonight. Why I have to do something different to get different results, right? Can't keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. What's my why? Why it's not my fault that I've struggled with my health goals in the past. 5 things I never knew before that will allow me to make lifelong sustainable changes. Belly fat's good for me. Don't burn me at the stake for that. Where all imbalances start and how you can get feeling better. I'm going to share some supplements with you. And why doesn't my regular doctor do all this? I was just talking to Miss Marcia, and she was saying that she ran into one of my old patients back in the day when I used to be one of those doctors. I'm a board-certified family physician, and I used to be one of those doctors that wrote 15 medications and 15 medications for the side effects of those medications. So don't judge me, as I don't judge my colleagues. But it's funny because I still get calls from doctors in town going, "What the heck are you doing over there at that Project Wellness?" And I get it. I understand, because they're jealous. Yeah, because I'm off on Mondays and Fridays. I have a life. So how cool is this? And there's some note areas, so if you want to take some notes tonight, that's absolutely perfect. And as we're going through this, maybe start thinking about what you want your life to look like a year from now. Maybe it's absolutely perfect right where you are, but maybe there's some things that could be better that I can help you with. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. What if I could show you something totally different? Wouldn't that be cool? And that's what I'm excited. My journey has been, I've had every female problem known to a female, basically. And we're all adults here, right? So I can tell you all those horrible endometriosis and heavy periods, all that crazy stuff, PCOS, man beard, not fun, acne, infertility. Finally got pregnant after 13 years, had a miscarriage. Finally, at 3 months, it was horrible. Finally had a baby, and at 8 months was in the ICU and almost died. Was in the ICU almost a month. Got through all that, and then finally had still problems with my female issues, and ended up with what I thought was ovarian cancer. In fact, my GYN at the time said, "Oh, we're in trouble here," as we went into surgery. And so anyway, turns out that it was just precancer. It was not cancer, which was a wonderful thing. But I came out with no ovaries. And the only thing I knew to do at that time was go on synthetic hormones. So the story didn't stop there. I didn't have a uterus anymore. Yay, thank God. But I gained 80 pounds on synthetic hormones, and that was horrible. And I was grumpy, and I didn't feel good, and it just went on and on. So whatever you guys come to me with, if you're a woman, I've lived it or been there most likely. And for the men, I can't say that I've lived hormone issues with men, but I can commiserate with the men about the hormone problems that their wives have. So I'm glad you're here to support them. So through that journey, I had a woman one day say, "Can you write bioidentical hormones for me?" How many of y'all have heard of bioidentical hormones? So Suzanne Summers has done a lot to promote that, which is wonderful. She's a little bit goofy, but I love her personality. But she's really brought a lot to the forefront. And what I love about her is she says she's not a doctor, but she brings experts who know the field and know the experience. So she really gets that out there. So through my journey, I thought, well, I'm going to read about this, and holy crap, it was crazy. I was like, why don't they teach you this stuff in medical school? It was so frustrating. And that really started my whole journey of, if they don't teach you this, what else don't they teach you, right? So this whole wellness journey sort of ensued. So I'm going to share some crazy stuff with you that you're probably going to think, there's no way that has anything to do with that. But I'm going to tie it all together for you. So I love to say that I haven't cracked the code, but I feel divinely compelled that the information, whatever your spiritual beliefs is, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I am so grateful for the abundance of the knowledge that has just kind of flowed to me through this. So I'm excited to share that with you tonight. And I believe that there is no one else in the United States or anywhere else who does what I do the way I do it. And I have patients from California and Dallas, and it's crazy because those are the places that people go to look for answers usually. And so it's fun to have all that right in Northwest Arkansas. So cool stuff. So I didn't do it, but the knowledge has been blessed to be handed down to me. So I love it. So I can't claim that. So anyway, these are just our objectives that we kind of already went through a little bit. And this is New Year, right? 2015. How many of y'all set resolutions? How many of y'all have kept them so far? Keep your hands up. Oh my gosh, we're only in like the first 3 weeks. But it happens, right? Because you say, I'm going to set that resolution, and then life happens or you don't see results. So I'm going to tell you absolutely how you can start making things change for yourself so that when you do New Year Chapter 2 in 2016, it's going to look completely different. So you guys are already working on that. And a year from now, you'll wish you'd started today. So please remember this night. Lock it in your mind. Eckhart Tolle says the power of now. We can't change the past. We have no control over the future. We have right now. So you guys are with me, and I love you for being here with me. So we're going to have some fun. This is me. I don't have many fat pictures because, can anybody relate? When you're overweight, the last thing you want is your picture taken. And now I'm like, me? Yes? Camera? Paul? Hello? You got me? So anyway, I'm very tall, so when I'm 80 pounds overweight, I can carry it well, but 80 pounds is 80 pounds on your knees and your ankles, right? And it still hurts, and your back, so it's not fun. If you want something in your life you've never had, you're going to have to do something different that you've never done, okay? It doesn't have to be this scary as jumping out of the bowl, but I believe that what I do is very different, and I love being different and outside the box. When I was a little girl, I won't even go into the strangeness. If you want to read the stories, my Facebook page is Dr.Tammy. I usually write about my dysfunctional childhood, and you can go learn all about me if you want to. But I've spent most of my life trying not to be weird, trying not to be different, trying not to stand out. I'm on the autistic spectrum. I didn't speak until I was almost 5 years old. If you saw pictures of me growing up, you'd be like, oh yeah, I get it. And so most of my time has been spent going to school and learning to look different and act different and not be awkward. But I am so awkward. You guys, once you get to know me, you're like, she's the weirdest lady on the planet. So sometimes we have to go back to those roots just a little bit and embrace how different but special and deliciously special we are, right? Einstein says the definition of insanity is what? Yeah, we do that all the time. We go to the doctor. My husband was just asking me the other day, he's like, why don't women especially go get help for their hormones? And it's like, I don't know. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, because we get dismissed, because maybe they just do a TSH, or maybe they just patronize us, or maybe they throw a medication at us for a symptom like depression or anxiety, and we go take it, and it doesn't make us feel better. And so we go back, and we say, hey, doc, that depression medication you gave me didn't really help. What do they usually do? Give you a different one, give you more, up the dose, or ask you a different symptom, distract you. Well, are you sleeping? Well, let's give you a sleeping pill, So we keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, or we just do more of it. Hope is a wonderful thing. So I think that's what I get to do, is provide hope, and I love it. And unfortunately, most of the time, by the time people get to me, they say you're my last hope. And I love that they're there for whatever reason they're there, but it's always very saddening to me to think that we have such a messed up system that what I do is the last result versus the first result. So I would love for you all to bring me your children, your grandchildren, get them tested for the things I'm going to talk to you about tonight, and change the future of their health and start educating them. There was a German scientist about 40 years ago, and he did a study on mice. And about 40 years ago, they didn't have all those controls that they have now, right, in the universities. You have to sign off all these papers about animal cruelty and stuff. So it's a pretty cruel study. Anybody got a weak stomach? So they took mice and they put them in a bucket of water, and they turned out the light, and they saw how long they would swim before they would drown. And on average, the mouse would swim usually 3 to 7 minutes. But if they put the mice in the bucket of water and they turned on the light, guess how long the mouse would swim? 3 days. Big difference. So you give someone hope and you tell them that there's an answer and there's a way, it makes all the difference in the world. So hope is magical, and that's what I get to do every day. And I hope that tonight you will see a different way and maybe have some hope in the things that I talk about. I have patients who are teetering on 100 years old. I think the oldest patient in my practice is like 96. And I have people come in and say, am I too old for you? And I say, absolutely not. Whenever you decide to start being healthy or whatever you want, this is possible. Ernestine Shepard did not start exercising until she was in her 60s, and she looks absolutely amazing at 76. You can YouTube her. She's won awards for bodybuilding. It's absolutely amazing. So whenever you decide and you stop arguing for your limitations, does anybody ever argue for their limitations? I can't, but I was in a car accident, so I can't exercise. My doctor says it's really dangerous if I exercise. Or, you know, I have to eat. My doctor says if my blood sugar drops, I could die, so I have to have a Snickers bar and a Pepsi every 2 hours. Stop the madness, right? So what's your plan? You know, Jim talked last night. He's a financial planner. And I love the analogy that you can go to a financial planner and they can lay everything out for you. And you can have this great plan for retirement 10, 15 years down the line, and it looks great. It's in a nice little portfolio. But if you don't write the check, it's never going to happen. That money's never going to be there, right? So the things I'm going to share with you tonight, start implementing them right away. Maybe just start thinking about them right away. But that's you emotionally committing to doing something different and writing that check towards your future. We have a health crisis. I don't think there's any debating that. I just had a patient in the office today, and we talked for 20 minutes about all these new changes coming down with insurance. And she was so thrilled that we have an hour together, because I spend an hour with my patients, that we probably shouldn't have spent 20 of it belly aching about Obamacare. But she was thrilled that she has unlimited visits with me and that she can sit and talk about that stuff for 20 minutes if she wants to. But there is this whole system of getting patients on more and more medications, and then side effects warrant more and more medications for those medications. So it's just this revolving door. We don't do insurance anymore. I got totally off that. And, you know, it's interesting because if I charged $300 for a new patient visit, I got $15 from the insurance company. So who was getting rich off that? Not me. And how could I spend any amount of time with my patients if I'm getting paid $15? So I'm going to see patients at 10-minute slots. I'm going to have my hand on the door most of the time, right? And so that's really how the whole system is set up. And pharmaceutical companies terrify doctors as well as patients into thinking that if you don't put your patients on these medications for their blood pressure, their cholesterol, if something happens, they're going to sue you. And so there's so much fear out there. So I love to demystify that. If you're taking notes, one of the first things I want to share with you is a great book if you like to read and you're into these nonfiction kind of education things. It's called The Great Cholesterol Myth by Dr. Sinatra. And he talks about it's not cholesterol that causes heart disease and strokes. It's inflammation and it's sugar. And most people who go in with heart attacks and strokes have normal cholesterol levels. So, The Great Cholesterol Myth by Dr. Sinatra. I always want to say Frank Sinatra, but it's like John Sinatra or something like that. Is it Steven Sinatra? Yeah.
It's sugar and inflammation.
Sugar and inflammation. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that kind of upcoming slides and kind of go through the history of what's happened in our country. A lot of wrong and lacking information. You know, one day you see on Dr. Oz, they say, take this, it's great. And then the next day you hear in the press, oh no, that'll kill you, that'll cause cancer, right? So it's just a bunch of craziness. And who do you trust? Where do you go? You know, it's conflicting all the time. You go look on the internet, which I'm a doctor who loves for people to bring me internet stuff and we can dissect it and look at the good, the bad, the ugly. But, you know, who do you know who that you can really trust with all this? So it is very frustrating. So what's your why? Why are you here tonight? Why do you want to feel good? What's important about that?
I'm tired of seeing my friends suffering and dying.
Yeah, that's a good why.
I'm healthy, but I have, I've lost some friends that are no longer here.
Yeah, it's a great why. My very dearest friend, we've been friends since we were 5 years old, lives in Eureka Springs, and her husband just had congestive heart failure diagnosed. He was in the hospital, had like 30 pounds of fluid on him, almost died. He's got a lung tumor that probably caused all that. And I see him, because I went to high school with him, as little Jimmy. I'm like, little Jimmy? How can he have all that? And I told my friend, I'm like, little Jimmy, how can he be that sick? He's so young. And Beth said, honey, we're almost 50 years old. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I guess, so it's all happening. So I want to share a little story with you about my mama. She's 76 and she's in assisted living and she has Alzheimer's. And my prayer to God has always been, please let her remember me, because my grandmother, her mother, didn't remember anybody and it was horrible. So God's granted that prayer for me, which is wonderful. But one night I was there coloring her hair and I'd spent about 2 hours with her. It's just something we do. It's about Kim's color, I think. Hers is Clara 102. Don't know if you know it. And as I was leaving, she said, Tammy, she said, when are you going to come back and color my hair? And I was like thinking, holy poop, I just spent 2 hours. I got frustrated. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. And I felt really conflicted and I didn't know why. And I got home and I had a good cry and I called my brother. He's 8 years older than me. And I'm like, I'm really conflicted about this. I said, I'm worried about Mom. But I said, you know what? Every time I lose my keys, who's been touched by Alzheimer's family members in their life? It's horrible. And it really starts bringing things home. Or when you have a friend who's sick, it really makes you realize your mortality and your, what you're here for.
Can't think of the right word to say.
Yeah. So I said, my biggest concern is, of course, my mom. But I said, that's what I'm looking at. My grandmother died of this. Her mother, she's going down this road. She started when she was in her middle 50s. Forgetting things, and she's always been ornery, so it's like I didn't believe it in the beginning. I had to, are you kidding me? It's always messing with me, still does. But my brother said to me something that was very powerful, and I hope that you all can hear this, okay? He said, Tammy, he said, you make decisions every single day that go against what you're fearing. He said, you exercise, you eat right, you take your supplements, you have the knowledge and the empowerment that is not going to be your fate. And I realized in that moment that there's something called epigenetics, which I've known about, which are things that override your genetic code. And those are the things that you have decision and choices over. And do I still eat at a Mexican restaurant and have a margarita? Absolutely. Probably any one of you have probably ever seen me there before. I'm not going to lie to you, but when everything's balanced and you're doing everything right, I call it the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you're doing things
pretty above board and online with health and wellness. 20% of the time, now, do I have a Snickers and a Pepsi? No, I just think those are nasty because it's just like sugar. It's not really my thing anymore. But once you get balanced, those things don't really attract you. But, you know, do I like to go and have a margarita or some chips every once in a while? Absolutely. So you have to have balance in your life. And when your body's balanced and your hormones and your chemicals are balanced, you can do that. So that's wonderful. So that's my mom. And this is my 10-year-old son. His name is Donnie. He is absolutely amazing. Can I say that? Can mom say that?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh my gosh, he came home today and he said, Mom, he just gave me this big elaborate story. He was out on the playground and somebody punched him in the belly and it caused him to projectile vomit 30 feet. And he's just a storyteller. I'm like, really? Because I didn't see anything in the note from your, they do those notes every day from the teacher, great day, not so great day, you know. I'm like, I didn't see anything in the notes from the teacher. And he's like, well, I guess that was a story. But I don't ever want him to have to come to the nursing home and have that experience that I'm having right now pretty much every night that I go see my mom. So I want to be healthy and strong. I don't want anyone to have to take care of me. And a lot of patients in my practice tell me that very same thing, that I want my independence. We do some crazy things. We do vitamin IVs, and we have an IV called glutathione, which is a liver cleanser, which is absolutely amazing. And I have Alzheimer's patients who come in for that and Parkinson's patients who I see miraculous recoveries with. And I just really love being able to give people hope for those things that we're told that there's no hope for. So, why it's not your fault. We all want to hear it's not our fault, right? And I'm the first one to say on this spiritual, emotional journey that I'm on that taking personal responsibility for your life in every level is important. But there are some things that are being done to you. I always say good things or your experiences in your life are done for you, not to you. But there are actually some things that are being done to you that I only want to increase your awareness about, because only when you have the awareness can you start making changes, right? I think that's a video, but I'm going to skip it because I like to talk better than videos. And basically that's just a video. It's called Escape Fire, if you get time to read it, because I know you guys are probably hungry and don't want to hear me ramble on all night, but it's called Escape Fire. It's got Dr. Andrew Weil in it, and he talks about the healthcare system and how we're basically mortgaging our healthcare system for chronic care. Now, we're great for acute care. If I walk out here tonight and I get hit by a car and I have 27 fractures, take me to Mercy or Northwest or wherever, patch me back together, duct tape, whatever it takes, right? But if I am overweight or my hormones are out of whack or I have diabetes or autoimmune thyroid disorder, we don't really have anything in place to deal with that, right? And it's just frustrating. So anyway, it's a great little video. Over 800 billion. Does anybody know how much a billion is? It's a lot. Worth of pharmaceutical drugs are sold throughout the world, okay, worldwide. 400 billion, if you do the math, it's half, sold to us in the United States. It's crazy. You know, you watch the evening news, how many pharmaceutical ads do you see? It's crazy. I don't usually pick up Women's Day magazine or anything, but every once in a while they'll send us some Women's Day magazines for our office. So I picked up a Women's Day magazine. I counted how many pharmaceutical ads were in it. Now the magazine was 98 pages. Guess how many pages of pharmaceutical ads were in that? 32. It's crazy. And the ads even say may cause what? Everything. It's a real issue, so I just want you to be mindful of that. And, you know, I've had my own personal stories. My mom broke her hip. She went into rehab on 5 medications, came out on 23 medications. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I really feel like I'm just going to kind of plug this because I feel like there's somebody here that needs to hear this tonight. When you go to the hospital, if you ever need to go to the hospital, have a designated advocate pretty much 24/7. I was a physician, and I mentioned, when I was pregnant with my son, I was in the ICU, I had pneumonia, and I went into respiratory arrest, and I was by myself, and something divinely happened in the universe. It was not my time to go, and a friend of my mom's got up from dinner. My mom was out of town. This friend got up from dinner, drove across town in the middle of his dinner. I mean, he's enjoying dinner with his friends for no apparent reason, and he's like, I just have to go check on Tammy. And he walked in, and I was flatlined. And I had been calling for nurses for almost 2 hours, telling them, I'm getting into trouble, I can't breathe. Here I am, a physician in that hospital, with hospital privileges at that hospital, and I almost died there. So if that's the case, I don't want to scare you guys, but having an advocate and somebody watching your back is not a bad idea. And it's not your doctors don't love you or care about you. And it's not your doctors that put you on these medications. And I am not saying to stop any medications tonight, right? That's my disclaimer. That's a process that I help people with all the time. But I am saying that we have been conditioned, and it is, all money driven. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so more reasons, and these are some of the things I want you to be aware of. Over the last few decades, our sugar consumption has drastically increased. If you read food labels, it's absolutely ridiculous. The first ingredient is usually sugar, and now they've kind of hidden it as high fructose corn syrup, or HCFS. So, corn syrup.
Instead of high, because they made a big deal about the high fructose, so they changed it to corn syrup.
They just changed it to fructose.
What's interesting about that is I used to get on my soapbox, and I used to be, ooh, high fructose corn syrup is the devil. It's so bad. Terrible, shame on them. And then, and I do this sometimes, so I always tell people I never say never, because I'm constantly learning new things, so I'll never be that person that says, no, I'm not gonna do that. Are you ridiculous? No. You've probably heard that from doctors. No, I'm not gonna write that, I'm not gonna do that. No. Because I'm I'm losing my duct tape. See, I knew that was gonna happen. That's crazy. Where's the force when you need it? I don't know if it's gonna hold out, Paul. I know. Gorilla Glue. Where's the Gorilla Glue? I think it's going to be okay. I may have to hold it. Where was I? I totally forgot as my microphone's sliding in my butt. High fructose corn syrup. Well, it turns out that it's really not that different from table sugar. It is a 45-55% mix differential. But the problem is, do you know what the problem is? Quantity. It's in everything. It's crazy ridiculous. It's in everything. So I've gotten off that soapbox just a little bit. Is anybody warm? Does it seem warm in here? Okay. Because I think this is falling off me because it's sweating off me. We consume most calories between November and December. Who would disagree with that? We just got through November and December, right?
Thank God.
I was just talking to Ms. Pam the other day. It was so cute. We were talking about she's making cookies, and she's like, you know what? Ever since I've been doing this program, she's like, I'll just have a bite or two, and that's really all I need. It's like that's where you want to get. You don't want to have to eat the whole plate when you're making them, like for a present. But holiday, so be mindful of that. Half of the weight that people gain over the entire year are gained November and December. The obesity epidemic started when the low-fat guidelines were published. Some smarty pants, and I'm a common sense kind of girl. Anybody just love common sense? That is the crux of my existence. If it doesn't make sense, don't do it, right? Common sense goes a long ways. Well, I almost would buy this because someone said, if you eat fat, it will make you fat. Makes sense, right? And maybe on some level it does if you're eating like these terrible, horrible, unhealthy, greasy, deep-fried Twinkie fat. Maybe that is the case. But the problem is when they made these low-fat guidelines and they started telling everybody, stop eating fat. And when you read that book, The Great Cholesterol Myth, you'll see that it's not cholesterol and fatty cholesterol that causes heart attacks and strokes. When they started taking fat out of everything, it tasted like cardboard. It tasted terrible. So you know what they did to make it taste better? Sugar and salt. And our rate of heart attacks and strokes and all that stuff went drastically up over the last 4 decades. So it didn't help us, and our obesity rate went drastically up as well. We were never meant to drink our calories. Never. I don't know where that came from. And I always tell people, they're like, what about fruit juice? If you're going to drink fruit juice, my rule on that is, because I like a little fruit juice every once in a while, is never drink any more in juice than you could literally manually juice a fruit. Have you ever tried to manually juice a fruit? You know how much juice you get out of it? So if it took 15 oranges to get like a little 6-ounce glass of juice, could you eat 15 oranges in one setting? You kind of get that? Hey, you want to know another cool trick, like a dieter's trick? This is just fun. I don't know why I went down here. It's just a little rabbit hole. If you're going to eat a treat or a snack, we're kind of talking about a bite of a cookie, take the weight that you want to weigh. Okay, so maybe you want to weigh 150, or maybe you want to weigh 130, and keep your treat limited to the amount of calories. So 130 calories. And there's a great, if you guys aren't familiar with it, called myfitnesspal.com, and there's an app on the iPhone. It'll tell you the calories in anything on the planet. If you eat out at Tivola's or Olive Garden or any place, it'll tell you the calories and stuff. And I'm not about counting calories, and I'm going to show you why in just a minute, but that's just kind of a neat little trick, just our tool, just to kind of limit the quantity that you eat of sugar. If you drink this much soda, you're getting this much sugar. Isn't that absolutely ridiculous? Could you eat this much sugar, like just get a tablespoon and just dish it in? Why would you drink that? The number of people that you're around. So be mindful of this when your dinner comes around. How many people are in this room? As you go up towards 7 people, your calories increase by 310 or 72%. And I call this just kind of mindless eating because you're nervous, especially me with my social awkwardness. You know, I'm just like shoveling it in. And we eat more on the weekends, you know, because I think we socialize. We're with more people on the weekends usually. So think about that next time you're on the weekend with 7 people having dinner. We sleep less. Some people actually brag that, oh, I don't need much sleep. If I get 4 hours of sleep, I'm fine. The average adult needs 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And during that process, we metabolize, we regrow tissues, we metabolize fat. It's all so necessary. And one of the things I find as we go through hormonal decline, both men and women, menopause or andropause, we call it in men, we lose our progesterone. And men and women have all the same hormones, which is sometimes a little bit interesting, you know, to the guys. I have estrogen, I have progesterone, absolutely you do. It's just different amounts and your receptors are a little bit targeted, a little different. But progesterone is the main hormone of sleep, and as it declines, you start sleeping less, you start feeling worse, you start having all sorts of issues with that. So we can absolutely help with that. Calorie consumption. I call this portion distortion. Oh my gosh, it was like this weekend we went to the movies, and I like to get like, because I love popcorn at the movies, so I like to get just a little small bag of popcorn with a little bottle of water and just enjoy my popcorn because it's, you know, part of the experience. And the guy says to my husband, he says, for $3 less, you can get the tub and a large soda. $3 less. With free refills. That's portion distortion, you guys, and that's not helping. I mean, you're paying less money to get sicker, so just be mindful of that. And pesticides, and I could go on and on. I can do a whole seminar on pesticides and glyphosates and Roundup. You've probably heard genetically modified food. They genetically modify it so it does not respond to the pesticide, so it only kills the weeds. But these glyphosates are absolutely horrendous, and they tear up our intestinal tract, which I'm going to share with you a little bit about leaky gut in a minute, and can cause severe, severe problems in our digestive tract that increase our disease, sickness, all the things that come with that. So since they started using glyphosates heavily in 1995, the obesity rate absolutely follows the line of using these pesticides. So there is no doubt that it is causing leaky gut and obesity epidemic. Also, there are a couple other graphs that they have. You know, it's funny because the Roundup company has completely denied any of this data that it's a problem. A little bit of poison's not going to hurt you. But there are correlations with autism and celiac disease, diabetes. I mean, direct correlations with all this. So you guys can look that up. So why it's not your fault? We just don't realize that we eat out more, we eat more sugar, we eat more on the holidays, we drink our calories, we eat more in social groups and on the weekend. We've been misled about low fat, portion distortion, and pesticides. One of the things about pesticides, and I do a whole seminar just on hormones, is that pesticides act like the wrong kind of estrogen in your body. There's basically 3 different kinds of estrogen. And most people just hear estrogen and they think estrogen, that's it. But the wrong kind of estrogen, called estrone, causes the belly fat, causes the mood swings, causes the fluid retention, all those kinds of issues. And chemically, synthetic hormones like Prempro and Premarin are identical to that wrong kind of estrogen. And pesticides and plastics like the PCBs are chemically identical. They're called xenoestrogens. So if you want to look up xenoestrogens, that's part of the problem. We get issues. And then also there are hormones, estrogen particularly, that's put directly into our meat supply, the milk supply. So we're getting tons of the wrong kind of estrogen. So I said I was going to tell you why belly fat's good for you. This is a picture, this is a PET scan, shows the heat difference, and fat actually lights up differently. And when I was in college, I worked with a professor and we did a study on brown fat and black bears. Everybody was like, did you actually go in the cave and get the blood from the black bears? Yeah, I did, of course. No, not really. Be like my son, I'll actually fess up. So anyway, the heat shows up differently. So regular fat is what you see here, that is protective under your skin, that should you get hit, you know, it protects your organs. This red fat is what we call abdominal fat, centripetal fat. It's what you hear on Dr. Oz being the dangerous fat. And it actually lines the organs. But what it does is it protects the organs from the toxins from being in the internal organs themselves. So the liver, the heart, the kidneys are all protected because all the toxins are stored in this kind of visceral fat here. And so what that does is it keeps those toxins away from your internal organs. And so it's kind of surprising to a lot of doctors. Sometimes they'll say, wow, you're really obese. I can't believe you don't have high blood pressure. Or I can't believe you don't have diabetes. Or I can't believe you don't have fill in the blank yet. That surprises me. It's because, hey, this is really protective. It's keeping you from getting those diseases. But it can only do that for so long before it starts to cause problems. And belly fat's not really very pretty. So of course we'd like that little red dress or that little black dress. So, and it's a much healthier way to go. So there's actually a reality show someone told me about the other day about a 400-pound girl. And she said that she was told by her doctor that there's healthy fat. I mean, there is a small body fat percentage that is healthy, but you know, being 400 pounds in no sense of the term is protective at all. So 5 things you need to know for sustainable health. Absolutely have to know these, and they're completely different than I believe what anybody else is doing. And if you can prove me wrong and tell me somebody else who in town or any place else that you know that's doing this, please tell me in this particular way in this organization. Hormones really do matter. Fitness doesn't have to be stressful. Stress reduction can be fun. Nutrition for health and weight loss isn't what you might think, and I'm going to talk about diesel versus unleaded fuel, and the right supplements really do make all the difference. Hormones really do matter. This is kind of what I told you about a steroid, how it matches up with a steroid receptor. It goes into the cell, and the DNA pumps out proteins, and those proteins upregulate or downregulate your cholesterol, upregulate or downregulate your sleep, upregulate or downregulate, you fill in the blank, every process in your body. Most people, when they think of hormones, though, they think of what? Menopause or estrogen.
And then the next place their mind usually goes, now you guys seem like a very informed, intuitive group, but the next place that most of the lay public goes is estrogen causes cancer, right? So what happens when they get out of balance? And I thought I had a slide up there about estrogen causing cancer. I just want to get you thinking just a minute, because you guys, common sense, right? We're going to go there. I want to get you thinking just a minute that most of the time, most women who get breast cancer, what age group are they in? Now, there are exceptions, and we see young girls get breast cancer. But when you think about who normally, oh, bless you, who normally gets breast cancer, what age range do you think about? Mm-hmm. And that's what, the menopausal, premenopausal, postmenopausal age, right? Ladies, that's when your estrogen is the absolute lowest. When women come in and they say, I'm out of balance, check my hormones, I mean, it's like in the toilet low. If you're 80, it's in the toilet low. So if estrogen caused cancer, why don't we see pregnant women running around with, all pregnant women running around with cancer? That's when your estrogen is its absolute highest. So I mentioned that estrone, which is the wrong kind of estrogen. God doesn't make a bad estrogen. But that particular kind of estrogen in excess causes all of the problems of estrogen imbalance and cancer and all those things. So anyway, hope you guys get to hear my hormone talk sometime, because I'll go all through that. Okay, good, awesome. So all hormones happen together. You can't isolate your insulin. You can't isolate your thyroid. You can't isolate your ovaries. But you can have a primary hormone imbalance, and this is kind of fun. So I've been doing this long enough that I can look at people walking down the street, and without even knowing their symptoms or anything, I can say, this person's got an estrogen issue because they have weight around their hips. Or this person has a cortisol issue because they have all this transcutaneous, all this visceral fat here, adrenal issues, cortisol. This person's very diffuse all the way through, and usually they'll have a primary thyroid. And then the guys, they start to lose their muscle mass. You lose that six-pack. Some people would argue it's because the only six-pack you have is the beer in your refrigerator. But you start to get this isolated belly, which is different from this adrenal or cortisol, which is very kind of whole trunk. And then this is just belly here. Oh, I forgot I had this slide in. Anyway, so if estrogen caused cancer, in your 20s, you have a 1 in 20,000 chance of getting breast cancer when your estrogen is absolute the highest. And by the time you're 85, when your estrogen is absolute lowest, estrogens, you have a 1 in 9 chance. So it's about the balance. And again, this is the estrone in the hips, water retention, breast tenderness, moodiness, decreased libido, fibroids, adenomas, adenomyosis, PCOS, all sorts of issues. And these are the 3 different estrogens that I mentioned to you. This is estrone, the culprit. I wasn't much for biochemistry, but it's so interesting how just a few little oxygen, hydrogen molecules can make all the difference in the world. And this is part of the reason why when they patent hormones, they just change a little hydrogen or oxygen and they can make money off of it, because only God has the patent on bioidentical hormones. So that can be a real issue. Lisa did really good. The reason I put her on here is because Lisa really wasn't much of an exerciser. Lisa really didn't watch a whole lot of what she ate. She worked in our office for a while, and I was like, Lisa, really? But Lisa got her hormones balanced. And so I'm not saying that that's all of it, because I believe that you have to balance it. We call it the 5 pillars. You have to balance it with nutrition and fitness and identifying issues with toxins and things like that. But I thought this was just the coolest thing, because she's absolutely a testimony to all we really did was just balance her hormones. Fitness doesn't have to be stressful. Has anybody ever done yoga before? And it's really stress reduction too. It's half stress reduction, half exercise. So anybody who's stressed out, and it's hard in the beginning, isn't it? Like rest period is excruciating for your type A personalities. Anybody type A in here? Oh my gosh, I just heard, how am I doing on time? I'm rambling again. This is the coolest thing. You're gonna think this is crazy, but there's this place in Fayetteville. It's called Deprivation Chambers. You guys heard of them?
I'm so excited. I want to go try it. It sounds a little hokey. It's this big tub of water that has magnesium salts in it, so the buoyancy makes you float. And then they close the lid, which if you're claustrophobic may be a little creepy. A pressure cooker.
There's a big air tube, because I'm like, what if you couldn't get any air? I feel a little funny walking around like this.
But the water temperature is the same as your body. It's completely dark. There's no sound. And for an hour, you float in there. And my friends who have done it said it is like, equals like 2 weeks of vacation or like an hour of massage. It's absolutely crazy. And the thought of that just like gives me palpitations because I'm so type A. I am so busy all the time. So I'm excited. I'm going to go do it. So if any of you guys go do it, let me know what your experience is because I need it. Fitness also. I am not a big social exerciser. My social awkwardness makes it really uncomfortable for me. So I exercise at home. I do strength training. I have dumbbells and kettlebells, and I do the Wii, the Just Dance. So if you have that program, I have a blast with that. And I look aside. I usually have ankle weights on and wrist weights, and I'm on a trampoline dancing, and I like up my game. But it has to be something you enjoy, has to be something fun, has to be exciting. Sam's done Just Dance with me. And stress reduction can be fun. In fact, I'm launching a whole new project. I'm doing a 4-week workshop starting this weekend if you guys are interested. It's play therapy for adults. We are just going to have a blast because I think we forget how to play. My childhood, interesting. My father was very sick. I became a caretaker at 9 of my dad. My mom had to go back to work. And it was, he was in a hospital bed. I mean, it was changing urinals. It was, it started my health caretaker career, which is a wonderful thing, but I lost my childhood. And I think that that is not an isolated experience. I think that a lot of people, whether they have emotionally absent parents or they have to take on more responsibility, or maybe they had alcohol or drug addicted parents, or whatever the case is, maybe they had stressed out parents. We had to grow up really fast and we lose that play and that fun in our life. So I've really recognized that a lot of people have lost that ability to just have fun and lighten up. How many times do we just go to work and we are so stressed out that we just can't even function? So I'm hoping to be able to get that back. So anyway, stress reduction can absolutely be fun. What happens with stress is that we increase our cortisol levels, not good, belly fat. Our leptin goes down, which is our fat burning hormone. Our hunger goes up, our fat storage. We literally look at calories and we start storing them, and then your weight goes up. So we want to control cortisol, absolutely. Do you hear something back there? Will you go back there and see? I think I heard something. Whose heart rate went up a little bit when I did that? And when you looked back there and you didn't see anything, weren't you like a little bit like, oh, I don't see anything?
Yeah, like someone's making faces at her or something.
So I think one of the biggest stress reduction techniques that I can share with you guys that you can start implementing this week is whenever you're scared, just go look. Take a knife or a gun or something, but just go look, So it's like the little kid who lays in bed who thinks there's a monster in the closet. If you just get up and go look in the closet, you see there's no monster there. So taking action, just kind of go look and make sure there's no monster there. Nutrition for health and weight loss isn't what you think. And I've completely done away with, now you can't eat 20,000 calories a day and never get out of your chair and expect to make any changes. But when your hormones are balanced and you're still struggling a little bit with weight loss, this is really super cool. And I had a husband and wife come in one time, and I started doing food sensitivity testing
for fibromyalgia. A chiropractor taught me about it, and it was absolutely amazing for chronic pain, back pain, joint pain. Certain foods that you eat are not healthy for you. And so it's literally like putting gasoline in a diesel fuel tank or vice versa. And you may not even know what those foods are, and I'm going to explain how that works in just a minute. And I had amazing results. In fact, I had a woman say one time, she was like, came back at her 3-month follow-up, and she had fibromyalgia so bad she had a cane and she could barely walk. And when she came back at 3 months, she was literally skipping into the office, and she said, I'm really ticked. I'm thinking this woman is skipping in my office from carrying a cane 3 months ago, and she's ticked. Why is she ticked? And she's like, because a doctor told me this 7 years ago, and I didn't listen to it. She said, I thought he was a quack. That was compelling to me. Well, fast forward a couple years, and I had a husband and wife. Husband, same thing. I did the test, and he comes back, and he's lost like 30 pounds, and he feels great. And the wife's gained like 20 pounds, and she's upset. I get a lot of upset people for like the craziest reasons, and I personalize everything. Do you guys do that? It's like, oh my gosh, I must not be good enough, right? So I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I thought about it, and I was like, let's check your food sensitivities. They were completely opposite of his. And so at her follow-up, like 3 months later, she'd lost that 20 she'd put on, plus lost a little bit more. So I was like, I got to start using this for weight loss, and have done it consistently ever since, and it's been spot on every time. I thought I'd really invented something new and cool, and then I go out to my anti-aging conferences in Vegas where there's like thousands of doctors. Everybody's doing it out there. I'm like, dang it. Thought I came up with something, but. Food. We socialize around food. I probably got you guys here tonight because I bought you dinner, right? Food is to repair tissues, to sustain life, to provide energy, to promote growth. Do you think Doritos and Pepsi do that? You know, it's funny. I read something, I think it was on Facebook. It was like a picture of a French fry laying on a porch like a year after it had been there, and it still looked like a French fry. Somebody was saying the other day that there's an ice cream bar that doesn't melt. You know, it's like this is fake food that we're putting into our bodies. It's absolutely crazy. So I want you to start thinking, when you put food in your mouth, is this going to sustain growth? Is this going to promote growth, sustain healing? And I'm going to share with you about leaky gut, because when we talk about food sensitivities, this is where it all starts. This is where hormone imbalance starts. This is where inflammation starts. This is the root of aging and everything that goes wrong in your body. So you eat your food, you chew it up in your mouth. This is my drawing. Feel free to. Yeah. I would clap, but I have to keep my hand on my microphone. So food goes into the stomach. And in a perfect world, if you ate from the Garden of Eden with completely minerally rich food, which, you know, who knows what we even get these days, this has to be a perfect system to absorb our nutrients, right? Our minerals, our vitamins. So the stomach acid starts to break it down. It's interesting because I have a lot of patients who have stomach acid reflux issues. Anybody? So what does the doctor do? They put you on stomach acid suppressants. But the trick is your esophagus that goes up here is where you feel the pain from too much acid. So I actually put patients on more acid called betaine HCl to shut down the sphincter so it doesn't come up here and cause heartburn. But the traditional model is to shut down the stomach acid. Well, you need that stomach acid to break down your nutrients. So if you're taking that purple pill every day, you're really doing yourself a disservice because you can't get your nutrients. So in here in the intestines are these, if you looked under the microscope, you'd see these perfect little cellular adhesions, this protective purple layer called IgA, that's your immune system, bacteria and yeast. And we take, you know, all this for granted that it's all working properly. And here's the bloodstream, that only the nutrients, the vitamins go into the bloodstream, right? And then we have digestive enzymes that come from the pancreas. It not only makes insulin, but digestive enzymes. And a gallbladder, hopefully you still have that breaks down your fat for you. Well, this is a leaky gut. This is a completely messed up system. And I would say that 99.9% of all the people in this room have some degree of this going on because you live on this planet long enough, it gets messed up. And I believe this is the difference why kids literally can eat all that junk food and get away with it. And over time, our guts get so disrupted that we cannot absorb our nutrients. And iodine, selenium, and zinc are cofactors in your thyroid conversion. B12 is your fat conversion and your hormone conversion absolutely necessary. So that's one of the reasons we do B12 shots in our office, because so many times people are so disrupted that they can't absorb their stuff. Or maybe gastric bypass surgery, which is absolutely the worst thing you can do. Totally even wipes this whole process out. So stomach acid, too much of it or too much of a problem, lots of stress can disrupt this. Medications, notice there's no bacteria or yeast in here. It's been wiped out. Maybe antibiotics. Maybe you eat too much sugar and the yeast overgrew and the yeast are taking over and totally, you know what yeast does. It's no good. And literally now food falls down through these adhesion molecules, through these cells and into the bloodstream. Food was never meant to hit the bloodstream. Only bacteria and viruses and foreign invaders and those sorts of things. So now we have your immune system completely confused because it's like, oh, a Dorito. Where'd that come from? What am I supposed to do with that? So this is the cool thing. There's a blood test that you can do. This checks for 100 foods. We have another one that checks for red dyes and yellow dyes and preservatives and all the stuff I tell people to avoid anyway. But the ones in red are the ones this person's sensitive to, and they rate it 1 through 3. And like asparagus is the first thing on the list here that's in red. And you think asparagus is healthy, right? And this person, it causes inflammation. And so it's like diesel fuel in an unleaded tank. Diesel fuel's not bad. Unleaded fuel's not bad, but you put diesel fuel in an unleaded tank and you've got problems, right? Well, one of the cool things is if you go to the station and your car's not running because you accidentally did that, which nowadays they tell me there are like little stop valves, you can't do that anymore. But in the old days, when we used to walk 5 miles in the snow to school with no shoes, when that could happen, the first thing the mechanic's going to do if you have that wrong fuel in there is do what? Drain the pipes. And so that's what we do. For 21 days, we put you on a very specific process of supplements, probiotics to restore the bacteria, and amino acids to kind of spackle. You guys ever spackled anything? Spackle that gut right up, and anti-inflammatories. And we want to heal this because avoiding these things in red for the rest of your life are not, you know, really fun. So we want to heal that up and get you absorbing your nutrition good. Yeah. So how can you get started tonight? 70 to 80% of all people we do food sensitivity testing when they have significant leaky gut. Now we can heal this up, right? So there's light at the end of the tunnel. But for the next 3 to 6 months, if you just gave up gluten and dairy, you could make a huge impact in your life. And if you have like allergies, giving up dairy is amazing. Just for a week, you'll see a huge difference. If you've got kids or grandkids that have terrible allergies and they have to take allergy medications, absolutely amazing. So, and there's lots of reasons for that I won't go into, but these are huge, huge things that people have issues with. So I said the right supplements. So I'm going to share a few things with you. I love to keep it simple for people, and I love to put things together so that they don't have to think about it. So my husband used to have a nutraceutical company, and so he's a specialist in like putting stuff together. So he was like, just tell me what you want in it, honey, and I'll order it up. So I was like, well, this would be the basics for metabolic support, what somebody would need just at a minimum. And this is what I take every single day. Fish oil, absolutely amazing, anti-inflammatory. Do you take any fish oil right now? Yeah, with your back pain. If you start taking 4 to 6 of a good quality fish oil, your back pain would probably be, I would say, at least 50 to 70% better in a week. It's crazy, people don't believe me. So fish oil, first thing you want to get on. It's a great anti-inflammatory. Magnesium is a smooth muscle relaxer. Magnesium also for skeletal muscle, people with back pain. Great for constipation and great for migraines. I have people who use a special formulation of magnesium and B6 that we have in our office. They act like it's water to them. They will not be without it. And magnesium for blood pressure. When I was in residency and I delivered babies, we couldn't put pregnant moms with high blood pressure on blood pressure medication because it would kill the baby. So we put them on magnesium. It's just crazy that we do it there, but we don't do it with our elderly population that, you know, really are at risk for these side effects of medications. Iodine, amazing for helping the thyroid work better. Methyl B12 is a specific form of B12. It's not your traditional B12 that you just kind of go to Walgreens and buy. I do a whole talk on supplements and what's good and bad and potentially dangerous, but the specific form called methyl B12 is what you want to look for. Traditional B12 is called cyanocobalamin, which has cyanide molecules in it. So you can ask yourself, is a little poison okay? Maybe, if your liver's healthy. But I like methyl B12. And methylfolate, which is a specific B vitamin that clears estrone, the bad estrogen, through your liver. So it's one of the first things we do for inflammation and belly fat. And it's not the same thing as folic acid. And I do a whole talk on folic acid. So methylfolate's what you want to look for. We have these. I've also put these together. Basically, natural anti-inflammatories are things like resveratrol, which is found in red wine, but the problem is you have to drink a lot of red wine to get the amount in resveratrol.
That's not a problem.
Not a problem. Turmeric is wonderful. Turmeric's great for memory if you've got any Alzheimer type issues. And then licorice is great for gut inflammation, not like Twizzlers. Don't go there. And then probiotics are very important for leaky gut repair. So I want to talk a little bit about functional medicine because this is what I've traditionally or moved non-traditionally completely away from. I say that I'm your coach. I'm just here to help you on your journey. You know, all that conflicting information out there, I've done all the research and I've put together pretty much what's, you know, my world according to Dr. Tammy and what works and what I've seen work for my patients. So I don't use, the pharmaceutical reps don't even come to my office because they know they're just wasting their time. But functional medicine is, here's your symptoms. You're tired, you're weak, you're bloated, you have nausea, you have issues with your stomach, you're dizzy, you have anxiety or insomnia or depression. And this is what traditional medicine treats. They treat the tree, right? And then what functional medicine does is actually looks at the root causes, which are hormone imbalance, lifestyle, toxins, food allergies, mitochondrial or cellular, or we do a lot of genetic testing for B vitamin metabolism issues, actually looking at the root cause of things. So that's exciting. And looking at all these things, sleep, exercise, mindset, diet, vitality. And I know this is a little overwhelming. I used to be one of those people that said, there's only so many heartbeats in a lifetime. I'm not going to use them up exercising. So I get it. I've been there. But now that I'm a regular exerciser, it feels so good. And I do things that feel good. And you can do that in a slow and steady way that helps. So a lot of doctors just say, let's just watch it for a while. You ever heard that? Blood sugar starting to go up. Your thyroid's starting to go out of whack. The reason they do that is oftentimes, A, they don't have a whole lot of time to spend with you to talk about lifestyle changes, but B, they're going to throw a pharmaceutical or medication at you. And they have to consider the risk versus the benefit of that drug. And so from a liability standpoint, they want to make sure you're really darn sick before they take the risk of that medication to put you on it. And so to me, that's like saying, let's watch and see your child run out in the street and let's see if a car comes, right? That's not okay. And so you guys are really going to have to take it upon yourself to empower yourself to know this information, to take charge of your life and your health care and start understanding this stuff, because what's your why? You know, your grandkids, your why. What do you want to feel good. You don't want to get cancer. You want to feel better than you feel right now. So it's all very important that you start empowering yourself. Functional medicine also looks at lab tests within range. I always say the blood doesn't lie. So I can look at your body type and tell you your primary hormone imbalance, but I like blood work to kind of back up what I'm doing. The beauty of what I do in functional medicine is, let's say your free T3 or your thyroid hormone is right here, and traditional medicine looks at this bell curve and they say, if you're right here, you get a call from the nurse and says your labs are fine, they're normal. So they've probably not done a whole panel like thyroid antibodies and the free T4 and, you know, all of the different panel with the whole thyroid panel, but they're also going to tell you that it's normal. And then you start to get discouraged. You start to lose hope. You start to think, oh, my lab tests are normal. I must be crazy. But what I get to do is look in this functional range and go, your hair's falling out, you're constipated, your skin's dry, you're wrinkling, you're grumpy, you're tired, you're at 0.4. Let's go ahead and do something about that. Let's not wait. So the missing pieces, also the 5 things that I kind of shared with you that you absolutely have to put together. Of course, you have to have the nutrition, and healing up the leaky gut is vital. You have to get the diesel fuel out of the unleaded tank. You got to deal with stress and the nervous system. You got to get your hormones balanced. And unfortunately, you are going to have to move just a little bit. But we train you how if you just have 11 minutes, 3 times a week, it doesn't have to be anything crazy that you have to do. That 100% of the time, when people put all these pieces together and they show up and they stop making excuses, it always works. People are like, well, this is a little bit of an investment. How do I know it's going to work? I'm like, it's up to you whether it works or not, because this is basic physiology. It always works. It's just you have to be in a place that you're ready to make it work. And then putting a system together. So we have some mad dogs. We have Scott and Becca and all sorts of people that will stay on top of you. And now we have what we call ambassadors, which Kim and Miss Pam are both ambassadors. So I'm going to let you share your story in just a minute. But they've been through the program, and now they just go and pay it forward and tell people about what we do. So this is Frank. So I just want to show you that guys get benefits from getting their hormones balanced too. This is a testimonial, but I'm going to skip that. And I don't know, Ms. Pam, you want to share a little bit? I don't want to put you on the spot. You don't have to. Oh, you have a prepared speech. Well.
I have notes because I thought I would be too nervous to remember what I needed to say and not ramble on. But what I'd like to do is to take you to April last year. And so I was in the beginning stages of some serious health issues. So I had high levels of stress at work and in my personal life. I had high blood pressure. I was being threatened by my doctor having to take some meds to regulate that. I had high cholesterol. I was on statins. I was constantly achy, stiff, sore. Made me feel really bad. I was overweight. I had poor eating habits. I had chronic tiredness, poor sleep, no energy. Obviously affected my exercise. I had depression, poor self-esteem, and dealt with life experiences. And of course, I was on an antidepressant. I just felt bad in general. I was the poster child for someone who was tired of being sick and tired. I had spent most of my life developing these bad habits, and the past few years had really begun suffering for it. I decided that it was time to do something about it, and so I came to a dinner meeting at this very location and learned more. A few days later, I was on my way, and now 9 months later, I am 35 pounds lighter. I am filling my body with nutritious foods. I am more energetic than I've been in years. I sleep like a big dog. I exercise regularly. I'm happy with life, and I take no prescription medication. One other major accomplishment is that I made it through the entire holiday season. Admittedly, not as good as I should have been, but without gaining a single pound. So, the question is it easy? And the answer is no. Can you do it? The answer is yes. It works if you work it. And will you have some difficult times? Yes, we all do. But that is why the Project Wellness team is here to help you. And they're here to help you and support you. I was determined, but I didn't have the self-discipline that I needed to do it alone. But just remember that you don't have to do it alone. This program has been a real blessing in my life, and I hope that you'll decide to make it a blessing in yours too.
Thanks, Darren. Top that, girl. Thanks. All right, well, I see somebody else here, but I'm not going to put them on the spot tonight. But if you want to share, you're welcome to that. So I'd love to help you, and this is what I do. It's very unique. I think you have to look for the underlying cause, stop looking at just using a medication to treat a symptom or a number, look at the body as a whole, and you really have to have some mentoring and some coaching because there's so much misinformation out there. It's absolutely crazy. And what could your life look like if you felt awesome? And so that's one of your questions on your little handout, if you could put that in there. What do you want your life to look like a year from today? And maybe it's not, maybe it is perfect right now, or maybe it's not. And if it's not, you know, what can we help you with? So if you come see us and
you have that answer before you come, you are ahead of 99% of the people who usually come into my office because they don't even know where to start. So if you know what you want your life to look like, that's a big step.